Hey guys, before we start, a quick shout out to Alpha Dog Nutrition for sponsoring this podcast. Alpha Dog products are now available at dusupply.com, and you can use code ALPHADOG15 at checkout for 15% off and a credit for free shipping to try it yourself. Now let's get you to your podcast.
Where's Fielder? He's gone to the dogs.
Well, Steve Fielder here with you one more time, friends, on the Gone to the Dog podcast from the sauna in Central Florida on the West Coast here, about 2 miles from the Gulf of Mexico. All the vacationers are down, coating themselves in coconut oil and and trying to imitate a beet, a red beet, I guess, or whatever. But anyway, this is a podcast that I'm looking forward to doing. And the fellow that I'm going to bring to the mic here in just a minute is to be credited with this idea that we're going to do today. And I haven't done one exactly like this before, although I have done tribute podcast for sure. But the guy that we're going to talk about today is certainly, I hope, alive and well and doing well and busy as he can be. And before I spill the beans here, I want to introduce my guest for today from the New River town of Narrows, Virginia. A good friend of mine, a bear hunting buddy, a houndsman for sure, Mr. Wes Woodyard. Wes, how you doing, brother?
Doing great, Steve. Hope you're doing well.
I am, buddy. I am. You know, I've enjoyed so much the times that you and I have been able to go to the mountain together. I don't see you much when we're out there hunting because you're always out there somewhere doing something, looking for tracks, catching dogs, dragging bears out of the woods. One of the hardest working guys that I've ever seen in a bear hunting party. But no, we sure have a good time when we go. Wes, you are how many trips around the sun now?
I'm 36 years old.
36. Well, I only got you by 41 years.
Well,
so
age is just a number, Steve.
As they say down south, I could be your daddy.
You could be, I suppose.
Yeah, well, they say it's just a number, and I like that. I like to pretend that, but physically, oh boy, those years do certainly make a difference. Well, okay, you're a married man, and I've met your wife. Her name is Danielle, right?
Correct.
And you have 2 children there at home.
Sure.
Yeah, I have one of my favorite pictures is of your son Barrett when he was, I don't know, on that Freedom Hunters hunt, the first one we did. How would he have been there?
He would have maybe been almost 2. Yeah.
Almost 2. He's standing up there in the window, you know, looking out. He's all about this bear hunting. He's 2 years old. That's Barrett. And then your daughter, Taylor, she's growing up on you.
She is. Yeah, it's a bittersweet moment.
What is she now?
She's 13 now. Yeah,
13, a teenager in the house. Lord,
yeah.
And you have a couple of other sons.
I do.
Right?
I have 2 more. Yeah.
What are their names?
Maddox and Pierce are 16 and 17. Yeah.
Oh boy. Well, yeah. You got your hands full, brother.
Sure enough. I know.
That's right. Now you're self-employed.
Correct.
Yeah, you have what, a fencing business?
That's correct.
All right. Well, I did my homework, didn't I?
You did?
Yeah. Well, that's cool to be able to enjoy the outdoors like you do. Now, you're an all-rounder, man. You hunt about everything and do some fishing too, don't you?
Yeah, that's the only way it really works. I mean, if to be honest, if you're going to do it all, you got to have some time. You know, Heath's always on the water. He's on the river. He's in the woods. But you know, he's employed by the police department, and somehow he still finds time.
Yeah, and that is a great segue into what this podcast is about. And of course, if you read the title, you know that this is a tribute to our buddy Heath Hyatt. Heath and I go back, I was figuring today, and I think you were too, Wes, it's about 30 years now. Heath and I met in 1997 at Pomeroy, Ohio at Plot Days, where his female Brandy had won the overall 3-night high score dog, 3 cast wins, and I had won the opposite sex with a dog called Wrangler. And at the motel on Sunday morning, everybody's packing up to go home, and Heath has got a bunch of trophies there, and I got a pretty good pile too. And I said, "Hey, you want to get a picture of these two, the top winners?" He said, "Sure." And of course, my dad was living then. And so we got a picture, Heath, my dad and me, that it's one of my treasured artifacts, I guess you would call it, of the years with the hounds and all. And that's when Heath and I first met. And so we'll get into that a little bit more. But Wes, you contacted me and said, I've got an idea here that we need to recognize Heath a little bit here because of all that he has done for hounds and for dogs and for our sport that we love and for ourselves personally and all. And, at first I thought, well, how am I going to do that? I don't want to embarrass Heath. And I said, oh, yes, I do.
Absolutely. I'm on board.
Right.
The good and the bad.
The good, bad, the ugly. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to spend about an hour here at least. And I know we got a lot more material than an hour will hold about our adventures and misadventures with Heath Hyatt. Now, I was just really happy when I learned that Heath had joined the W Hunting Supply podcast network, Houndcast, here with us because I knew that, he was going to bring a lot of good content. And he's such an interesting guy to look at from over here, not only being a houndsman, bear hunter, and used to be quite the coon hunter too, but he's also a professional dog man, a trainer, a master trainer that trains police dogs for, at one time he told me it was like 13 different police forces there I think in the New River Valley of Southwest Virginia. And so, but I'm sure my listeners know who Heath Hyatt is. I've had him on here a few times, but if you don't, all you have to do is go and look at some of his work on the W Hunting Supply Network here. And I think he drops his new podcast on Wednesday, I believe. But anyway, that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about our buddy Heath Hyatt. And if we can embarrass him a little bit, or if we can make him know that there's some people out there that really appreciate him and the work he's doing, that's what we're going to do. And I want to thank you, Wes, for having that idea.
Sure.
Well, let me ask you, when did you first meet Heath? I realize that you're from the same town of Narrows, but you're being quite a bit younger than Heath, probably 20 years, close to it. When did you guys first meet?
It would have been around 2003 that I first met Heath. The best I can remember, he was one of the few local bear hunters we had here in the county. I didn't have a clue about hound hunting because I wasn't raised around hounds. My dad had taught me how to hunt and fish, but just never carried hounds. At that point, he carried a few dogs that stick out to me this day, and they caught bear when we really didn't have any bear here in this county.
Mm-hmm. So your bear population hasn't always been as good as it is now.
Absolutely not. And if you've listened to anything else that Heath has published, then you would know that. But yeah, you were lucky to catch maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 a year. It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
the same.
Oh, I certainly remember those days too. And listeners know that I was raised in the home of a bear hunter. My dad also coon hunted, started me off coon hunting, and we did coon hunt at every opportunity. But as the years went on, my dad just was consumed by bear hunting. I mean, he loved it. He went at every opportunity he had, but he was a working man, as I know you are, and most hunters are. But Dad worked out of town, and he would only be home on weekends. So it's kind of tough, I imagine, to be gone all week and then come in and then try to bear hunt all day Saturday. And but later on, he worked closer to home and was able, we would, after work on Friday, it was a ritual with us, man, hurry home. I was working there in the old hometown at that time, married, and we would rush home on Friday, pack that old truck, load the hounds, and head off to Greenbrier County, West Virginia, up an area that's commonly called Cold Knob, and meet up. The guys would be already on the mountain looking for tracks and so forth, and that was training season. And so we'd hunt about all night Friday night, and then cook a breakfast over an open fire Saturday morning about daylight, and then get back out there and look for tracks, and we did that for several, during the fall especially, we would be at it about every day. But that was my experience. So yeah, I always loved bear hunting. And then when I met Heath, though, we both were pretty much into coon hunting. Did you do any coon hunting with Heath at all?
I remember maybe a night or two that he and I had went with another friend of ours, and that was kind of the mutual connection that kind of closed the circle for me and Heath. And I remember a few of his dogs then, but not quite like I did the bear world.
Who was that person that was a mutual friend?
Joey Powell was his name.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I don't think I know him.
He hunted with Heath in the early years as well, back the same around 2004 or 5. But
okay.
Yeah.
Well, you guys have a unique thing there, I think, and you may not see it from the inside out, but I imagine you do appreciate it. You have a great bunch of guys that you hunt with. And one thing that became very evident to me from my very earliest memories of bear hunting is to catch bear and have a good time doing it, you've got to have a bunch of dedicated hunters. You've got to have good dogs, but you've got to have guys that are serious about bear hunting, are not afraid to work, to do the work, that it takes to produce, bears and trees. And that group you guys got up there are pretty special, I think. And I'd like to mention some of those guys. Forrest Red is one of the guys that you hunt with, right?
Right.
His daughter's now kind of becoming a bear hunter, isn't she?
Addison, yeah, she's always has been, yeah.
Yeah, Addison likes to go. And I like to think about Fuzzy. Fuzzy, usually he and Forrest are pretty close buddies, aren't they?
Yeah.
What's Fuzzy's real name? I know it, but it's not coming to me right now.
Kevin Meredith is his name.
Kevin Meredith. He's the guy that's always got about 10 leashes hanging around his neck, and the first one out of the truck ready to hit the mountain when you got that long walk to do.
That or drowned. He's ready for anything.
Yeah, I want to talk about that too. I mean, one incident we had up there, I look back on it, and it still gives me shivers to think about
him too, I would imagine.
I imagine. Well, anyway, and you got Sam. That's Hot Rod, right?
That's Hot Rod.
Yeah. Most bear hunting parties, you got CB handles and so forth on. You don't use CBs anymore, but back in the day, my dad wore a number 6 shoe, and his CB handle was Bigfoot. So anyway, I don't want to miss anybody, but I know there's a great group of guys up there. Is Fred still hunting with you?
We didn't see him much this year. I think just maybe age and just busyness made, how things go.
Yeah, Fred with his little walker dog there that he used
Tori,
to haul. Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Who am I missing?
You pretty much hit them just about all. You got Greg and Hunter.
Yeah, exactly. Sam's dad.
Big Sam, yeah.
Big Sam. Oh, yeah. Well, anyway, it's just a great group of hunters, and when you go, you have a good time, and you usually tree a bear or two. And I think there was a couple of seasons there, Wes, that you guys, counting training season and all the way through the kill season, you treed like around 50 bears. Did you? Do you remember that?
Both included, yeah. We figured out training season and hunting season, yeah. Somewhere around there.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to get away from your background a little bit, but here too quick. So how did you start hound hunting? Who did you first hunt with?
So Heath was actually the first time I'd ever hound hunted. Well, not like I said, I was in high school. I was still in high school. I graduated in 2005. 2003, I was hunting through a mutual friend, and he kind of got me with Heath, and that's kind of where it all went. Like I said, he was one of the local bear hunters here, and I had no clue about a hound. My dad had taught me how to hunt and fish, but it never carried dogs. Like I said, at that point, Heath had a few nice dogs, and again, that was when bear were hard to come by. And you can, I remember, Bell, Frosty, Clyde, Sam, and then Ring, of course. Ring is one of the biggest standouts in my mind, because I got to watch the transform to where Heath was absolutely tested with that dog. If anybody listens to his podcast and they think he's got it easy, he didn't have it with that dog.
I did a story for Bear Hunting Magazine. Shout out to Colby Moorhead here, that is the editor publisher of Bear Hunting Magazine, and he permits me to do an article each issue about legendary bear dogs. And I did one on Ring, and Ring looked like a purebred walker dog. Mm-hmm. But he, as we've talked about the history, and I think Heath's been on various podcasts with me. In fact, I believe Heath and I were reminiscing the other day. I think the very first podcast that he did was with me. We were sitting right there in his living room, and we recorded. And I think that was the very first one. And we did a series. Actually, 3 days, I think, in a row we recorded. One day we were on a picnic table down there on Stony Creek. And anyway, talking with Heath about the dogs he had. And I too, when I started bear hunting with Heath, he had Frosty and Bell and Clyde. And I don't remember hunting with Ring. Ring may have been a puppy, or he was younger than, was he younger or older than Frosty?
He would have been younger, yeah.
He
kind of got him towards the latter part of that. And that's
right.
The Bell and Frosty kind of caught most of Heath's bear at that point, but then Ring came, and like I said, the trials and tribulations that he went through with that dog was unmatched. But once he became a dog, then he was probably one of the best in the country. Yeah,
for sure. Well, you and I could sit here and have a conversation and recall all these memories and everything. But what we want to do with this podcast is to get to familiarize our listeners with a guy that, in my mind, is the consummate houndsman. He is absolutely 100% dedicated to hounds and hunting and training and making the experience for you and me and anybody else that listens to him, make it a better experience, a quality experience. Sure. And there's one thing about Heath Hyatt, and I think you'll agree with me, Wes, because you actually know him better. You've spent many more days in the mountain with him than I have, but I've had quite a few. What you see is what you get with Heath. He is 100% truthful. He is 100% honest. He is 100% dedicated and serious. I'm talking about very, very serious about his dogs, training his dogs. He worries about his dogs. He knows his dogs like probably no other houndsman that I know. And that's because he's just extremely, extremely dedicated. So listeners, when you listen to a podcast, and the speaker is Heath Hyatt, you need to sit up straight. And as my pastor at church says, lean in and listen to what he's saying, because this guy's got the goods, and what he shares with you, he's learned by experience. Don't you agree, Wes?
That's absolutely right, Steve. I mean, you said it best, really. And, you guys in W, they're lucky to have him. Many get to watch and see the success that Heath has had now, but I can tell you that he didn't get it easy. I mean, I've seen him at his lowest, and I've seen him at his highest with his dogs. And I think that says a lot about his character as a man. I mean, he never gave up. If it was dogs he disliked, he took them anyway. These days he's doing pretty good with Spook and Kate and some of the younger pups. But his biggest attribute is the way that he's willing to help all of us in the group. I mean, he's a walking book of knowledge. He knows what the bear are going to do. He knows where they're going to be. He knows where they're going to run to. And you don't just know those things by hunting a time or two.
Well, one thing I noticed from the very earliest days of hunting with my dad and with the people that he hunted with, any good group of hunters has a leader. There's some, and they may not be self-proclaimed as the leader or give you chapter and verse every morning about what you have to do and what the leader wants you to do or whatever, but there's always a go-to person in a good group that, the group has faith and confidence in. It's kind of like having a good hound. When the track splits up, which hound you want to follow,
Sure.
That sort of thing. And he's been that guy, hadn't he?
He has for us. There was the time back when I first started around 2017, I bought a dog from Heath. I was plumb out of the picture. And, I'd asked him, I said, can I come back and hunt with you guys? And he'd talk to Forrest. And, that alone had created multiple friendships that I cherish still this day. Some of us are the closest friends. And everything we do outside of hunting, even, we're still mostly all together doing those things. But you're right. I mean, the leader thing, everybody asks him, what do you want to do this day? What do you want to do this day? And he's like, well, you guys pick. Mm-hmm. We want to catch bears, so you pick.
Yeah, he is definitely not a selfish guy. And, all the miles that I've ridden in a truck with Heath and the hours that he's always been so gracious to me to just open up his home. Because I've always lived a fair distance away from Heath ever since I moved to Michigan in 83. Well, that's actually prior to meeting Heath. But fortunately, Heath did come up and coon hunt with me some while I lived up there and all. But he was always very gracious to open up. I said, well, and I'll ask him, I said, you guys going to hunt early season this year? And he said, yeah, come on up. And I said, well, you got room for me? Well, I always got room. You know where your room is. and
Sure.
Just so welcoming and hospitable. And okay, some of the things I've thought about with Heath are along the line of what we're talking about. Was when I was with the Houndsman XP organization, I believe. No, wait a minute. I may have been with my Nightlife Nation podcast. But when we held the first Freedom Hunters hunt,
You were with Nightlife at that point. You brought Bryce down.
Right. That's right. Bryce Matthews,
Yeah.
who does the podcast of his own at times. About to get married. Somebody needs to talk to that boy. He's about to get married here the week of Autumn Oaks, and that's coming up here pretty soon. He and Nikki Rorvik and Nikki, I've known her since she was a baby. Great gal. But anyway, when this idea of a freedom hunters hunt got together with Heath, and he said, oh yeah, he was all about it. And I imagine at that time he probably came to you guys and mentioned what we were up to and so forth, didn't he?
We did, yeah. And of course we were all on board. We never realized it was going to be what it was going to be. What we were representing and trying to help out. Had no idea that it was going to be as exciting and the fulfillment we felt. When Chad came down and he had another veteran, I think Jason was his name, and they got the harvest bear. I mean, it was something to see.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, the Freedom Hunters organization is a great organization, and they bring, Gold Star family members and on active duty and veterans and all, take them on various kinds of outdoor activities. Might be a duck hunt, might be a coon hunt over in Indiana, maybe, an elk hunt, or in our case, a bear hunt. And the first one, I believe our veteran's name was Chad, wasn't it? Can you hear me, Wes? Did I lose you? I think we have temporarily lost our guest, but I'm going to bet that he'll be back in just a minute. Can you hear me, Wes? Earth calling Wes. Well, folks, this is a good time to put in a plug for my good friend Caden Riley, who was just on the podcast recently, talking about the Peach State Shootout with the PKC there in Georgia. Caden is the 19-year-old coon hunter that did such a great job on the podcast. We so enjoyed having him. And I wanted to give Caden just another plug here, because he has, I think, about 3 more of his qualifying events to do. And I'll give you the dates of those. Hopefully we'll get Wes Woodyard back. I don't know. We're having trouble. I guess it must be internet trouble. But anyway, Caden has put together this series called Peach State Shootout, Georgia Youth Series. And we talked all about that. But there are 3 more or 3 remaining events. Actually, by the time this one airs, there will only be 2. There was one on July 12th in Somerville, Georgia, then one on July 20th in Carrollton, and on August 16th in Shellman, Georgia. That will be the final one. And then there will be a hunt-off for the top 9 dogs, and that, I believe, is in October. But at any rate, just give a shout out there to Caden for the good work that he's doing. I saw some results on Facebook just this week where they had the hunt at Shellman, Georgia, and it was a successful hunt. So, okie dokie. All right, Wes, where are you? Let me see if I can put this thing on pause, and we'll see. We may have to come back and bring him back into the picture. So we'll pick this up as soon as we get. I believe he's back. I do believe he's back. I see that he's making an attempt. Anyway. Now, as I talk about my friend Heath, and someone said one time, it's always better to give the flowers while we're living. You know, you hear the tributes to people after they've passed on, and it's great, and I'm sure their families enjoy it, and it's great always to remember them. But when, you know, we have the opportunity to say, you know, things that we would like to say, or maybe we're too bashful to say to someone's face in a meeting like this, it's always fun. Wes, are you there?
I am. I'm sorry. I got unplugged there.
You got unplugged, huh?
Yeah. I'm not real savvy when it comes to the laptops and things.
Okay. Well, all you have to do is apologize to the listeners because they had to listen to me ramble there for the few minutes that you were gone.
I will apologize to everyone but Heath.
That's right.
But no, you were right. It was Chad McCormick on that hunt, and that was great. He actually came back and a couple times and finally got to harvest a bear, and it was a good time.
Yeah, it was a great time, and like we mentioned, Bryce Matthews filmed the whole thing for us, and I was so proud of that, of you guys. I mean, I certainly could not have done that at all. I was just kind of there cheerleading for you fellows that were doing all the work. But when that bear decided he was going to drop over into that rough area there, and everybody left the road, and of course I stayed at the road. I remember, I believe your wife was in the truck there at the road. I know she was, because when Forrest's dog, which one was that got caught by the bear? She was doctoring him, Duke or something like that.
It's probably most likely Boone if it was Forrest.
Boone. Well, no, Boone was the older dog. This was the one, maybe a little younger, Walker dog. Anyway, I saw the ladies there were doctoring the dog up. He wasn't badly hurt, but he was showing some effects of the battle. But that was a wild hunt right there. You guys got down there in that swift water, and I think we almost drowned our guest, and I don't know who else.
Yeah.
Were you down there in the creek when all that was going on?
I was not. So we were on the trail. That was during the 3-day season. So Chad didn't actually get to harvest his bear. He came back in December.
Yeah, that was the day we did not get the bear. We didn't kill the bear that day.
That's correct. Chad had that 45-70 swimming across the creek there. Yeah, I think everybody was wet. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. But just one of those experiences. But anyway, to go back, wouldn't have been possible without Heath, or someone just like with the dedication that he had to pull it off, because, you know, the arrangements for the hotel, taking the veteran out to dinner, and all these kind of things that you don't really think about too much, picking him up every morning, dropping him back off at the hotel, and then when that was all over, Heath is like, I want to do it again. I want to do one every year. I mean, just a real giving guy. And Heath, if you're listening to this, I hope you are. We don't want to get mushy about it at all. We got to live with you. But your dedication to houndsman and the sport that we all love, really just as much as you do. We may not be quite as dedicated to it, or maybe knowledgeable in a lot of ways as you are, but we do love it and we do appreciate you for sure. What, do you remember any particular hunts that you took with Heath, Wes, that stand out in your mind?
Steve, I can think of probably 100. The first one sticks out for me is the first time I ever killed a bear. For years, I Heath a treed bear, and again, there wasn't any bears then, but I was able to take one. It was around 2014. Well, it's February 2014. Again, he was down on dog power, and he went and he hunted anyway. Matter of fact, I shot every round I had in that 44 of mine, and Heath had to run up the hill and get his 41, and I shot all of his rounds. So that's why they call me Shaky. I've got better.
Had a little of that buck fever, did you?
It was just a super rush, you know. And, you know, that's the thing about us now, you know. I would always like to have taken one, but I can't sit and say that I ever would harvest another out of a tree. I can't sit and say that, you know, we would ever harvest anything that we didn't need to harvest. So things have really changed for us as a group. And, you know, I contribute a lot of that to Heath and in the way that he sees things. And, you know, we're all kind of in compliance with, you know, what he says. And, you know, we're in agreement with, if it's not a respectable bear or if it's not mean, then, you know, we leave it. And that's the thing. You said it, you know, he's not only a hunter and a houndsman, but he's a conservationist. He's a woodsman. And that's a big part of the game that we play.
Well, you know, it is. And when you we talked about those 50 bear seasons that you had a couple, I think, in a row there. Mm-hmm. And if I recall correctly, I know at least in one of those years, I believe there was a total of 10 bears harvested. And I think they were all male bears. There might have been a sow in the bunch. I don't know. But I know there is a concentrated effort to only harvest the males. I've been to several trees where there were nice bear that people would really, you know, enjoy having that rug or that mount in their den that we walked away from, you know, because the bear really, you know, wasn't what you would call a trophy or
sure.
You know. So I know that conservation plays a huge part in Heath's philosophy, and of course, and it's trickled down, as you say, to all the members of your group. And it's great to have somebody like that in your group to kind of set the tone. And kudos to you guys for kind of getting in step, you know.
Sure.
That's what frustrates me about politics, and I'm not going to get off on politics here. But, you know, if all the politicians out there in the world would just get behind the leader and say, okay, you know, which way is the leader going? And that's the way we're going to go. And we're going to be there as a support staff and we're going to win. But unfortunately, there's, you know, everybody wants to go their same way.
Yeah.
There was an old song, and I think it might have been the Oak Ridge Boys that says, nobody wants to play rhythm guitar behind Jesus. Everybody wants to be the lead singer in the band. And that unfortunately happens in a lot of hunting parties and things like that. Everybody, you know, guys get the idea, well, I want to be the boss. You know, I want to make the decisions. Well, I'm just thankful that I have a guy like Heath Hyatt as my friend. And I can remember very clearly those lean years when Heath was kind of up and down with his dogs. But he never quit,
right.
You know. And this is a lesson for some of you guys out there, I think. You know, Heath is over here in Southwest Virginia, little town named Narrows. What's the population in Narrows? Do you know, Wes?
Maybe be around 10,000, Steve, roughly.
Is it? Okay. And, you know, Heath was always trying to improve what he had. I remember he went out to Dale, you know, got dogs from Dale Cameron in Montana. He got dogs, of course, we know that he got the Kemp bred dogs from Oregon. We know that he got dogs from Van Johnson. I don't know if he got them directly from Van or whether they of New Mexico. I can remember him calling me and saying, do you know this guy, Steve? He's in so-and-so, and he's got this and that. And Heath, I know, you know, as a public servant, as a policeman, he didn't have unlimited funds to go buy dogs and things, but he would invest in what he thought would improve his pack. And then I think he's got the foundation now, and I hope it pans out for him in the long run of some dogs that he has bred and he's working with, and it looks like they may be coming along, and I sure hope they do. But anyway, I noticed that about Heath way back when we were just coon hunting together. He would come to Michigan, we'd hunt. Always very, very serious about his dogs. Always had dogs that handled well. He's the guy that goes in the morning when you get ready to collar him up and all. He can let all his out. He can open the dog box and let them, and they'll go running around everywhere. But when it's time to get back in the box and get a collar on, they're right there because he's got them under voice command, He's a houndsman. You mentioned that. He's a conservationist. I know that's true. And, but man, he's a sharp guy. He's gotten a lot of education through this dog training work that he does. And man, I listen to his podcast, and I invite everybody out there to listen to Heath because you're going to learn something if you do. But he's got some voices there that were never available to us in the hound world before. Some excellent training voices, some nutritionists, just good stuff. In fact, I'm a little bit behind. I haven't heard the one that he has out now about the treeing coons in Canada on the bear hunt and all that stuff. Have you listened to that one yet?
Do yourself a favor and don't bring it up.
Don't bring it up, huh?
No. He again, you said about the honesty, he had wrote me, I think it was a Tuesday, maybe a Wednesday, and he was livid. But, that's Heath. I mean, he's to the core, and he's going to tell you the truth. And he was mad. But, dogs are dogs. They haven't been hunted in almost a year, and made a mistake and fixed it and caught bear the next day.
Well, I think that speaks right to our point about Heath, about how serious he takes this game. He does.
No.
When they...
No, you're right on track there. I mean, like I said, I've seen him at his highest and I've seen him at his lowest. A place we were hunting that day, I mean, we were walking out this road, and I mean, literally, this was one of his down years. About when I first started, he was ready to quit. But that day, he was like, man, I'm so frustrated. His job was a lot on him then, and he's stressed out. His dogs weren't exactly what he wanted. But a week later, here we were again catching bear. It was just one of those times.
Oh, yeah. Remember it well. All right. Heath, the driver. Have you ever ridden very much with Heath?
No, he's always pushing me, Steve. Yeah, he bragged a lot about that Chevrolet, which it does.
What is that Chevrolet? How old is that thing?
At least 20 years old, at least.
I know.
But he drives it like it's a new one.
Oh, boy.
He got new bumpers on it now. He's souped up.
Oh no.
Yeah,
no, he'll be ready. Hard to deal with now.
Yeah, no, he is. Turn him down a little bit.
What's that real steep place that you come down there back on the mountain there? About 3 years ago, we were going back down. I think that's going over on toward the Stony Creek side.
It is going towards Stony Creek, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we had to creep down through there. And any second, we thought, well, here we're going to go for a ride. And I mean a ride off this mountain.
That was in the snow when you were with us.
That's right. It was snowing, and that thing had gotten some of that snow had thawed a little bit, and then it refroze overnight.
It wasn't much better going up as it was coming down. But
I imagine. Now, do you guys ever get in truck wars? Because you're a Toyota man.
Just so it's known, I did pull Heath out one time.
Let the record show, huh?
Yeah, let the record show, Steve. He was stuck in a little bit of sand.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, I tell you, Heath is a law enforcement officer, and I'm sure he's driven a squad car or whatever a lot faster than I want to go.
It's a little different in the woods, but he does it well.
I wrote an article one time for Coonhound Bloodlines magazine. The title was "Bear Dogs and Bear Hunters Are Crazy." And I had in mind all the times that I'd been on the mountain and see, the way we did it, just like the way you guys hunt. You know, guys are on the mountain looking for tracks, spreading out, looking around. But you guys are rigging a lot more than we did. We didn't rig anything back in that day.
Sure.
We just looked for tracks along on the banks where one maybe come off the bank or whatever. And if that failed, then we coupled them up and hit the mountain, you know, and walked till we could find something. But if somebody got on the radio, and they were very secretive because it was CBs and anybody could listen, they'd get on the radio and say, Bunyan was the guy. Jimmy Thomas was our kind of go-to guy. Bunyan, what's your 20? Well, I'm over here where they took that shale out that time.
You knew right where to go, though, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, you remember, come over here. You remember that time when so-and-so shot at that bear? Well, come over here. And that'd be all they say.
That's all you need.
Well, everybody was listening, knew there was a reason why you wanted the leader to come over, because he was wanting him to look at a track, I guess, to see what he thought about it, or he seen one cross the road or whatever. It was always very, very secretive that way. But then mass pandemonium broke out. Dukes of Hazzard had nothing on these guys when there was a bear track to be run. And it's kind of that way in your group too. Everybody gets around real speedy quick at most of the time.
I think everybody here, you said it, he's kind of the leader of the bunch, Hunter and them, they call him the chief. I call him all kinds of things. The Hunter calls him the chief, but truthfully, there's no better leader as far as this bunch goes that could tell exactly how to do it, where to do it, what to do it, and what time to do it. I mean, he's really good at what he does, and that comes back to being a woodsman and just building dogs.
Yeah, and you know where that also, that education came on a lot of afternoons after work and things with nobody but Heath and his dogs on the mountain.
Yeah.
I can remember a lot of times that he was hunting by himself,
And that's what it kind of takes to make the dogs. We have this conversation, a lot. I mean, we talk daily, most days, but you'll never know what you have until you do it by yourself. And when you start doing it by yourself, and then you figure it all out. Like I said, Heath's pushed and pushed and pushed. And like I said, to everybody listening to this podcast or his, he didn't get it easy. So the advice he's giving you, adhere to it and run with it. Take a snippet of it and go.
Good advice, Wes. Absolutely good advice. I couldn't get away from that CB story and all without thinking about my dad.
Sure.
My dad was a guy that did not say very much. And when he talked, now he liked to sit around in a group of guys and tell stories and all like we all do. He was a houndsman. But he wasn't the guy that was on the radio all the time, yakety yak yak, It used to frustrate my brother and me. My dad would reach for the mic on the radio, and he'd take it up and he'd hold it in his hand. He's thinking about what he wants to say, and then he would click the button and throw the carrier on the thing, and so we got dead air here. And I'm like, and now I wasn't one to correct my dad very much. And it really wasn't that I thought he would slap me or anything, but he was just that kind of guy. He just kind of commanded respect.
Sure.
You didn't push Dad.
Yeah.
And I'd say, Dad, what you going to say? and then but he had to think about it, before, because he was just the most accommodating guy in the world. I mean, my dad was, and when we talk about Heath being a great host, I remember when Chad, that first hunt, and he and Chelsea had prepared Were you over there for the food and the cookout and everything we did?
I was not.
You were not. Man, you missed it.
They
put a spread out there, man.
Always do.
It was great. It was great. And that's what I've noticed about hunting with you guys too. We eat good down there at Forest. We ate good the day I was down, or time or two that I was down there and all. Now, other people, I'm bouncing around here. I'll go there later. But anyway, Heath learned the things that he knows about hunting. We could say in the School of Hard Knocks. And he'll tell you, when he first got involved with hounds, they had, I think, shot a bear and wanted to called somebody that had some plots to see if they could take the track. Well, I lost you again, Wes. But anyway, there he is. He's back. Did you go away? Could you still hear me?
I could hear you. So that story that he told you about the first time he got to hunt is actually probably 2 miles here above my house. That's where it all started for him.
I hope you're darn.
Yeah, East River Mountain.
Yeah. Well, I remember. Are you still at the same place where we skinned out the bear when Randy Smith was down hunting with us?
I am. Yep.
Yeah. And that's and there's another thing. Randy. Heath being very, gracious and inviting Randy down and his brother and his 2 boys. They got bears to take back to Pennsylvania and that sort of thing. But Heath is just an all-around good guy. But the thing about Heath is that he is very, very knowledgeable when it comes to hounds, not only in, about feeding hounds and conditioning hounds. And he's learning about breeding hounds. And I say learning because we all are. Even at my age, it's still a learning curve to try to come up with a good cross of hounds. Let's talk about your dogs a little bit. Now, do all of your dogs come from Heath stuff, or do you,
no,
what do you got?
No, I had some Kemp dogs there at one time. I still have one. I've got some stuff that goes back to Heath's. I've actually got a litter of pups on the ground now.
What's
questionable? We'll see. But
we never know.
Yeah, that's what we talk about. Again, that's why I appreciate him so much, is because I could call him any time of night. I don't call him much after 9 because I know he's probably getting his beauty rest. But anytime I've got a problem, we've got a short-haired pointer here that we've been working with, and he's just that's why I wanted to do it, because the man's a book of knowledge, and I like to understand how to fix things. If somebody else knows something, I don't have to mess it up. You tell me how to fix it, and we're all better at this.
Why try to reinvent the wheel?
Right?
Yeah.
No, he'll laugh occasionally about some things I do, but so don't laugh at me. Help me fix it. And typically that's just the way that we are.
Mm-hmm.
But I've got some dogs out of Heath stuff, and I've got some dogs from out of Glen stuff, and I do still have a Kemp dog. I lost one a couple years ago, but I don't have the dogs that Heath has. I don't have the dogs that some of the guys have. I have dogs that will go and do, and they'll catch their own. They're not consistent. But, again, I wasn't raised into hounds. I didn't have a very solid start, but, with Heath and Forrest and all of them, I found some dogs that I like.
Yeah, that's number one, Wes. Yeah. That's a number one factor right there. Do you like them? If you like them and you're enjoying them and you're having fun with them, that right there is, you're way ahead of the game with a lot of guys,
And that's why I tell a lot of the guys that I hunt with, they're like scared of Heath. And to be honest, they're kind of standoffish about telling him or something, I just tell him, my outlook is different maybe than something that Heath had missed. He's looked so hard in his dogs and worked so hard with them. Maybe it's something that I saw that he didn't see that maybe he can think about, and it works out for all of us. But I'm no professional by no means.
Well, Heath and I have the kind of relationship, we, a while back, we decided we were going to partner on a dog, on a pup.
Hmm.
And I could tell from what Heath was telling me about the pup, and we both had a sizable investment in this pup. And I could tell by what Heath was telling me about the dog that he wasn't real happy with the dog.
Sure.
So I kind of maybe jumped ahead a little bit, but I thought I had a solution about the dog. And that was for him to, let me find a new partner on the dog. And what I was thinking about, in all seriousness, I was thinking about Heath wasting his time on this dog just because he and I were in it together. Well, this is the kind of relationship Heath and I have. So he said, all right. So we did this, and he basically got his money back. So I didn't see Heath for a while. And I think I ran into him maybe at the bench show or something at the APA Plot Days. Hadn't really talked to him much in a while. And I said, what did you think about that? Me wanting you to sell your part of the dog. He said, it was a slap in my face. I said, really? I said, well, buddy, I'm sorry that you took it that way. And what he was meaning was that he was thinking that I didn't think he had the expertise to train this dog. When I'm sitting back here looking and saying,
you just didn't have
if God didn't put it in there, and he knew that. He knew that, but I felt like that, no, he's going to try to defend, the fact that he talks to people about how to train dogs, and he's going to put a lot of time, and he's going to waste his time. So I played the daddy figure. I'm quite a bit older than he in that deal. But you know what? That did not hurt our relationship one bit. He understood where I was coming from. I understood where he was coming from. And that being able to be objective about the dogs and be honest with us. So one of the worst problems that we can have as hunters is not being honest with ourselves. We looked at a dog out there, and just because he's wearing our collar, we think, well, he can walk on water and talk on TV because he's my dog. And it doesn't always work out that way. And sometimes we have to step back and look and say, hey, this isn't going to work.
Sure.
And I think to Heath's credit, he's done some culling. And we don't talk a lot about culling because some people just, as my mother says, faint and fall back in it when they hear that. But no, honesty, integrity, character. That's, to me, that's.
And all of those things are going to build a better character within you, and it's going to build a better character with the guys you hunt with, and everybody's going to be better. I mean, you're saying it right. He's very truthful, but you can be that way with him too, and he takes it.
Exactly.
Yeah, he takes it well.
And you mentioned the other day that you think Heath thinks a lot of me. Well, to me, that makes me feel great because I sure think a lot of him. And the hound community is so fortunate to have a guy like him. People encounter these training problems with dogs, that have really nothing to do with tracking and treeing. But you got to live with that dog. You got to be able to handle that dog. You got to be able to get that dog back at the end of the hunt. You can have all the Garmins in the world and track the dog down within 20 acres, but if you can't get your hands on him, what good is it?
And we all deal with that. Most of the guys we hunt with, they're all really tone trained. There's very seldom dogs we can catch. We do kind of things the way that he does things, but I really think that what people don't understand as far as Heath goes is the stress and the things he does behind the scenes to get the footage, to get the podcast together, to talk to the right guy about the right thing and the right timing. And the man really puts in the work, and I hope that people really take it serious. And like I said before, adhere to it and take something from that, because it looks like it's all fun and easy, but it's far from that.
Well, I'm encouraged when, at being an old man like I am, I'm encouraged when I see the pictures of Heath with his daughter out on the river. He's a musky fisherman, man. He likes to catch big.
I wish he let me catch one. Every time I go, Steve, I don't know it. We see him. He blames me for hitting the boat. He's got a lot of excuses.
Well, every fisherman's got an excuse shirt, with all this.
It's the reel, it's the line, it's the shirt I wore. It's always something with me.
Oh, yeah, I know. We can, we won't peel back too many layers on our buddy there. We both know him pretty well.
We don't have enough time for that.
Right. I've seen him on the verge of, as Larry Meeks used to say, having a come apart.
I have to, yeah. But the important thing is it came back. So
absolutely. Resilient. He's like that hound that never quits. Well, talk about Heath and the dogs he's had down through the years, some of the ones that I remember very well. And I hunted a lot with Frosty. I hunted quite a bit with Belle and Clyde. Clyde was a red tick dog. Frost, I believe I'm right. And if memory serves me, and I lost Wes again. Frosty was a big black and tan looking dog with some white points, and he came down out of what's her buddy over in oh man, my memory just flew out the window. What'd you do there, Wes? You must. I'm gonna be like Heath. I'm gonna blame that on you.
I'm coming and going, Steve.
Oh, why can't I think of our buddy over there, the professor that was the bear hunter, had old Homer.
That may be before my time.
Lance Hutton.
Lance Hutton.
Yeah.
So that's where he got ring from. Yeah, the AR
That's
dogs.
right. And that line of dogs, old Homer was a crossbred black and tan and Walker. And he produced a lot of good dogs. And the AR dog, which I learned the AR stood for the fact that the dog almost had a ring around his neck, almost ring, and they called him AR. And I believe that's what Heath's ring dog came out of. I'm pretty sure.
That's right. Yeah, so I actually asked Heath last week about AR and ring because, you and I had talked, and, I didn't want to be oblivious to, the backstory on them. But, yeah, that's right. Frosty.
Yeah.
Or AR. Yeah.
Yeah. And Heath and I, we punctured our chest out a little bit. We got the picture to prove it. Fell over in West Virginia, invited us over to go bear hunting. And we drove all the way over there. It was a pretty good long drive. Had to get up real early. And got over there, and they said they had a bear track, and they waited for us to get there. And they tried to, even though they waited all that time for us, they wanted to try to start it with their dog. So we held back, and I had a plot female named Singer, and Heath had Frosty. And they tried with their dog, and you could see the track in the snow, and it was going uphill. We went up this hollow pretty good ways, and they were standing on the track up there, and it went kind of steep up, and then the ridge kind of went around, and there was a big laurel thicket back up in there. Well, that one didn't work. And we turned Frosty and Singer loose in there, and there wasn't any time till they had that track out of there and going. And Heath will laugh. The other day, I mentioned to him, I said, "You remember that, Heath?" He said, "Yeah," and they ran off and left us. We got back to the trucks, and there wasn't any trucks there. And they took off in the trucks and got around them. By the time we finally got around there, they already had the bear killed. But, yeah, had some good times with that young'un. He's like a son to me and always will be. And I just wish, it's a long way from Port Richey, Florida to Reiner, Virginia. I just wish I could make that trip more often, but hopefully this fall. Do y'all have an early season this year? Is this kind of going to be the last year for it, they're saying, or what?
I hope so. I hope they do away with it, but so far there is an early season yet.
Yeah. So they're taking too many bear in the early season.
There were a lot of sows. A lot of sows killed in the early season, yeah. Naturally.
That's not good. That's
No.
not good. Well, Wes, we've been at this almost an hour, and I asked you for an hour. Do you have anything that we should have covered that we didn't so far?
I don't, just publicly, and I hope you guys listen to Heath, and I hope you get some knowledge from him. He's a walking woodsman, houndsman, you name it. Take what you can from him.
Well, certainly I think listeners, and certainly our network here, and I want to thank at this time again Buddy Woodbury for making this podcast possible, and for bringing Heath aboard when he became available. I was very excited about that, and Heath and I had some conversations, about it beforehand, and he's doing a great job, and I get a chance to look at the stats for the number of downloads and all, and his podcasts are doing extremely well. And so, hopefully we, the podcast listening audience out here, will have a lot of opportunity to benefit from the knowledge and the stories and all with Heath Hyatt. Heath of Reiner, Virginia, is, as I said, a master trainer with the Christiansburg Police Department and several other police departments. But the thing I've always been impressed by Heath is the fact that he likes to go out and acquire all the legislation that he can. Listen to me, education that he can. He is an educated man. He may not have a long list of college degrees, but I'm sure he's got certifications as long as my leg in his police work and with his canine work and his training and all the things that he does. So, Heath, I hope we've embarrassed you. I hope that we've said, made your face red. But we just want you to know that we appreciate you. And we hope that you're going to continue. As I get older, I'm going to rely a whole lot more on your podcast and your stories and all for the entertainment value. Wes, you're going to benefit from his leadership over there, and don't let up on him. Give him a hard time as much as you can.
Hey, Steve, you know me. I don't much give him a break.
Well, that's good. Well, all right, I got to ask you think Barrett's going to be a bear hunter?
Steve, he asked every day to go. He's kind of hoping maybe to harvest one this year. We'll see.
All right.
He'll be 5 at that point.
Yeah.
My wife and Taylor, and we've all killed them with Heath and the guys, not just Heath, but hopefully it's a family affair here. And that's, that's a big thing for us.
Oh, absolutely it is. And that's what makes bear hunting with hounds. I call it and coon hunting can be that way too. The ultimate catch and release. You go and everybody can take part, whether you're standing on the road like me anymore, leaning on a walking stick, or whether you're out there, walking your guts out to that tree back up on that ridge. The whole family can participate. They can look at the Garmin. They can listen to the radio. They can, the kids, I noticed the kids interacting, whenever the group would get together at a place where everybody was kind of hanging out and listening or whatever. And the kids are all socializing with each other and all that. It's just, there's so much good about hound hunting. And it's so important that we save this for future generations.
Absolutely.
And there's no better way to do it than the way you're doing it, Wes. Just taking your kids, taking your family, making them a part of it. I urge everybody out there to do the same. Okay, friends, I think that's going to do it. It's, I thought we were going to kind of roast Heath a little more, but on second thought, there isn't a whole lot of bad stuff to say about the guy. I mean, he drives like a maniac, scares me to death.
I need another 20 minutes, Steve, and I'll cut it loose.
Another 20 minutes. But Heath, many, many more years to you out there, buddy. In memory of old Ring and Frosty and Belle and all those good ones that we followed over the years, I just want you to know that it was an absolute trip, and I'm looking forward to many more. I'm not done yet. No, I'm going to get up there and ride in that old Chevrolet. The fenders don't fall off of it before I get up there. Those new bumpers, you reckon they'll hold the fenders on, Wes?
Steve, I suspect you're in for a whole new ride, pal.
All right, Wesley Woodyard, our guest this week from Narrows, Virginia, as we talk about our mutual friend and W Hunting Supply Podcast content provider, Heath Hyatt. Get on that W network and look at those podcasts there, and just pick any one. You'll learn something from our buddy. Anyway, this is the Gone to the Dogs podcast. If anyone asks you where's Steve Fielder these days, say, well, he's old and he's in Florida and he's sitting in the air conditioning and waiting for fall. And if he ever gets back onto that mountain, you can say he's gone to the dogs. Thanks for coming on, Wes. We appreciate it.